Good evening and welcome. Thank you for all for your willingness to serve and participate in this important process. The budget is one of the most significant policy documents a city develops each year because it reflects our community's priorities, operational needs, and long-term goals. Your role as committee members is critical in helping ensure that public resources are used responsibly, transparently, and in a way that continues to support essential city services and the quality of life for our residents. Right now, we're going to move to the Urban Renewal District, so I'm going to turn it over to Sean.
Thank you, everyone. Sean Waite, Finance Director, 3 weeks in. So
you've got it all wired by now.
Yeah, right. So there might be a lot of, I'll get back to you on that. But anyway, thank you everyone for joining us and being patient through this process. There's been a lot of emails going back and forth with corrected material or additional information. So I certainly appreciate your patience and hanging in there with us. We're going to start out first with the Urban Renewal District budget. And with that, we have to open it up for selection of chair. So I'll turn it over to the previous year's chair to start the vote. Did we do it?
Didn't we do that the last meeting? Didn't we already read?
Not for Urban Renewal.
Oh, Urban Renewal.
Yeah.
For nominations for the chair.
Chair. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'd like to nominate Antonio Martinez for chair.
I will second that nomination.
Any other nominations? No, we'll vote on Antonio Martinez as chair. All in favor, vote, please say aye.
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 Yay. Sunny Hawaii.
Any opposed? Say none. Chair Martinez, elected chair.
Thank you, Chair. And we will need to also elect a secretary.
Okay. I'll now open it up for nominations for committee secretary. Committee secretary for nomination. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. I nominate Rebecca Inez Oliveros, the secretary, although I have not checked for her. Will you accept this nomination?
I'll second it first.
Yes.
Do I have to remember everything else?
There you go.
Okay,
You are strictly a ceremony.
I will accept.
You as the chair.
Yeah.
Got it.
Any more nomination? Seeing none. All in favor of Rebecca Oliveros as secretary, please vote. Budget committee, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Seeing none. Please forward again. Yeah, item 3, appointment of recording secretary, appointment and one position as our recording secretary. Now we're going to need 4, Dr. Sean for budget message and overview.
Thank you, Chair and Committee. So tonight we're here to have an overview of the Monmouth Urban Renewal Agency's proposed budget for fiscal year 27. The proposed fiscal year 27 Monmouth Urban Renewal Agency budget totals approximately $7.63 million, which includes an estimated working capital of $1.4 million. The budget is structurally balanced with planned expenditures and reserves aligned with projected resources. The budget continues to focus on infrastructure investment, economic development, downtown revitalization, and long-term community goals. The budget anticipates the potential issuance of up to $5 million in additional debt, contingent upon favorable market conditions and interest rates. I would like to note that the current fiscal year budget for the Urban Renewal District did include a $5 million issuance of debt. We did not proceed with that given the market conditions and interest. So that additional debt was not incurred this fiscal year, and we will potentially be seeking it for next fiscal year if budget's approved and market conditions improve as well. Staff will conduct a comprehensive financial analysis, like I was talking about in fiscal year 27, to evaluate borrowing feasibility and repayment capacity. Some of the revenue highlights is fiscal year 27 is projected. The tax increment revenues are estimated about $1.01 million, and that's including some prior year receipts. Incremental growth is assessed property values, continues to strengthen urban renewal resources. Some major strategic priorities, the proposed budget aligns with our urban renewal plan, 5-year capital improvement plan, economic development strategy, and downtown improvement plan. Major fiscal year 27 priorities include the Gwen Street East Connection, downtown pedestrian improvements, redevelopment support, and facade improvement grades. Urban renewal funding will help leverage additional funding sources for transportation and infrastructure projects as well. The budget continues support of the Urban Renewal Grant Program, business redevelopment assistance, downtown revitalization, and small business initiatives. The agency will continue servicing the existing $4 million loan from Key Bank that supported City Hall construction and utility infrastructure projects. And some of the accomplishments, just high level for fiscal year 26, is urban renewal grants supported sidewalk improvements, sewer repairs, commercial rehabilitation projects, and facade improvements and new business development. And with that, that concludes my overview of the Urban Renewal District. And I'll turn it back over to the chair.
Great, thank you. Any questions? Kristen? Yeah, go ahead.
I noticed on page 1, paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it says the program begins FY 27 with an estimated working capital of $.
Yes, I apologize for that. That was an error and it will be corrected in the approved budget. So it is the 1.4 million.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
So we're trying to issue more debt, is that right? $5 million this year? Nothing says we've got to, right?
No.
Nothing. So we can put that off for as long as we need to, if we think the economic conditions do not warrant it.
The urban renewal district has a time limit on it, so we can put it off, but not forever.
What is that time limit, by the way?
It expires in the
So it's actually set to expire when we reach our maximum indebtedness spending, which is just over 16 million, I believe. So we have 5 million left till we've reached that. We projected that would happen, I think it was later in 2030, but the earlier we can get in and borrow and do the projects, the earlier we can retire the urban renewal district. And then those tax monies flow back to the taxing districts, which City of Monmouth is one of the largest ones there. So it does behoove us to go for, when the market conditions are favorable and right for borrowing, it does behoove us to get in and finish the plan and retire the district. So we'll reap those tax benefits.
If the market conditions are favorable.
Sure, yeah, we have, that's why we didn't go out this year. We need to do our homework, so to speak, and look at the interest rates, look at what our borrowing capacity is, make sure we have our projects that are lined up and ready to go. So we will consult with the professionals that do this, that service for a living, and figure out if that makes sense. So
And part of this urban renewal money paid for this building, right? We way overspent on this, as I recall, didn't we?
It was about a third of the overall project cost, but we'd have to go back and find out what
It's
they're.
not originally planned for. So we expected to have more money already in hand to fund these projects. But now we're trying to borrow another 5 million on, right?
for projects that are specifically listed in the urban renewal plan, so infrastructure.
We borrowed what we borrowed from the urban renewal district, or took what we took from the urban renewal district. That amount of money didn't go up because of cost overruns. There was a cap on how much was coming out of the urban renewal district. We had a cap, that's that. It's not impacting downstream.
Where did the rest of the money come from for paying for this time? You said it was capped.
You help out with that, I can't.
Was the ARPA.
Oh, yeah, right.
Originally, the budget was 1/3 out of the urban renewal district, 1/3 of the bond that taxpayers passed. And then there was an additional third out of reserves. And the overages have come from a variety of places that we've talked about in prior years, including federal ARPA money funded quite a bit of the overage, and then some other out of the general fund and various other reserves.
Well, once again, we don't need to borrow now. There is no time limit, right?
Yeah, we're not going to borrow when interest rates are high, so.
So interest rates can come down again, although I don't foresee 30% interest again anytime soon. But- Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think it would be maybe helpful to talk about the structure of how urban renewal district funding works, right? And please correct me if I'm wrong, and this is just kind of to the general body. With urban renewal districts, going in is the indebtedness is that we borrow so we can do projects that will yield tax outcomes that will be a net positive for the city. And so when we're borrowing, that doesn't go against general fund money, it doesn't go against city funds. It's paid back through tax increment financing, right? So that little sliver off, from the city, from the fire district, from the school, whatever taxing districts overlay, any increase in tax funds and any increase in value generated by it goes to pay itself back. Is that correct? Okay, great. And so when we talk about indebtedness in this sense, we're not talking about, the city going into debt per se. We're talking about borrowing so we can do that front load of generating, generating activity here in the urban growth boundary that will then yield the tax benefits to pay itself back. Okay, great.
But once again, that's not a guarantee that we're gonna get those tax benefits. There's this presumption on Chris's part that is actually an investment, and we're gonna make money on it. There's no guarantee that that's actually gonna be an investment, the urban renewal, of itself, right? We're just hoping that we're making investments in the community that will generate more money. On the other hand, that's not actually part of the tax itself, since that's a separate debt, it has its own bond, right? And so as we take that $5 million more out, we can expect what we pay at the end of the year would be more than it was last year, is that correct?
I guess I need clarification. When you say we pay, what do you mean? When you pay your taxes or?
Yeah,
when
when I
we
pay my
the-
taxes, if
No,
we
no,
get this additional $5
Does
million in
it
there,
does not increase.
No,
it's not gonna change our tax at all.
no.
No, this is not a bond at all. This is a loan we take out and it's guaranteed by future property tax revenue.
So it's
Folks,
guaranteed by future general fund income, is that right?
not at all. No, that's why this is a whole separate budget meeting
Yeah, that's what I thought.
on the urban renewal.
Yeah, so I don't see how that doesn't increase what I have to pay and everyone else in the community next year. But you're saying it doesn't. Can you explain how that doesn't again? It's not really clear.
May I?
Please speak into the microphone.
So we have locked in a tax level on the properties inside the urban renewal district. Yours is
Sure.
not in there,
Sure.
okay?
Mm-hmm.
each year, as the value of those properties increases, we get the tax increment as the taxes paid by those properties go up. The agencies that are getting taxes have had their income frozen, the school district, fire district, the city, others. And the urban renewal district gets this triangle.
Yeah.
The purpose of the urban renewal district is, in a sense, to take on debt. And to use that debt to finance projects, which we hope, and in some cases, for example, building this building didn't directly increase tax increment, but it may help encourage development around us that would. If we were to say, build a bridge over a creek, that suddenly opened up a parcel for development somewhere, it wouldn't be built if it wasn't for that triangle worth of money financing a loan to build the bridge down here somewhere. And we'll pay it off when we get out here. As we go, we pay it off each year. It's a way for us to get money for the city up front at effectively no risk, because we know at a minimum, property tax receipts are gonna go up 3% a year for Oregon's tax law, and maybe more.
But we also know that the expenses in the general fund
Right.
and everything else are part of that triangle, right?
No, because this triangle is the urban renewal district only. The money that comes into that triangle is used to finance urban renewal debt. That's all it's used to finance. It does not get spent on anything else but urban renewal projects, loans to finance the urban renewal projects.
So let me try and digest that then, and I'll get
Okay.
back to it, okay?
And if you, Rich, I've been in the middle of this since day one. And I am not an expert by any means, but if you get it thrown at you enough times, at least a little bit of it will stick. And so I could talk to you about this offline if you'd like, and try to, it's, when I first heard about this, I was kind of amazed. It's a really amazing mechanism to help cities do stuff. And I've always been amazed at the stuff that we have gotten done. You know, you talk about, is there any guarantee? No, but we used urban renewal district money to help out the development of the S-curve. Did that increase our revenues? You damn straight it did. That was a huge payoff. We used urban renewal district money to help the apartment complex just north of the police station do some work. It paid for itself in a year and change.
I'm not against good investment.
Right, yeah, I'm just saying,
It pays for
is
itself.
there a guarantee? No, but we have done pretty darn well with the projects we have chosen to fund to help with increasing the overall tax revenue available to the city, some of which is probably outside the urban renewal district.
Yeah, granted, but of course, what I see every year and everyone else sees is, we always see tax increases. When we pay our taxes, and it's not 3% that we increase this.
Well, that's because there's other things added in, like
Exactly, so those are the
bonds
things
and so on.
to see. And I want to see if that's part of the.
No.
Yeah, it is.
And it isn't, because again, for you, you're not in the district, so you don't pay the district. And if you were in the district, what you would be paying would be the same amount you were paying whether you were in the district or out of district. It just matters where the money goes. It's not, it doesn't raise your taxes. It just says that piece that is above the baseline that we set when we started the district goes into the urban renewal district instead of to the other agencies that are out.
Once again, this isn't about me, this is about everybody.
No, I'm only focusing on you because I'm picking on you, Rich, because you're the example tonight.
Yeah, that's okay.
But yeah, so properties that are inside the district, they're not paying more taxes because they're inside the district. It's just where the money goes is different.
Okay, like I said, we'll get back.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, and thanks everybody for, like I say, I've been at this for too long.
Thank you, John. Yeah, actually, that was a good explanation. One question is just the $5 million amount. Can you explain where that came from, or is that something that's variable, or?
Yeah, so that's actually what's left or available for our indebtedness. So that's where, and so within that $5 million, there, In the CIP, there are certain projects that are identified, as well as within, the budget here that goes towards economic development and grant funding and so forth. So, that funding would be spread out through across projects.
I asked this question a number of sessions ago, but my initial question was, where does the money come from an urban renewal district? And the answer I received was that there is, in my terms, there is money skimmed off the top of the general fund. It goes into the urban renewal district, and it's separate and distinct from urban renewal district is one issue, the small part of the general fund, but they two don't commingle funds. And then the general fund regular budget, they do whatever they do, but urban renewal district gets an amount of money from the general fund annually, and then that's all they get.
So get
No, I was told wrong.
Yeah.
So where does the
Not
money
from the
come
general
from for an
fund.
urban renewal district?
I think Councilor Oberst explained it pretty well, so maybe we can take this offline for a little bit more understanding. And I can even show you tax bills and show you it doesn't change the general fund. That's why this budget is completely separate. There's no line items in the general fund budget referring to this at all. And it doesn't change the amount anybody's property taxes who's not in the district. It doesn't change anybody's tax rate. Monmouth can levy X dollars of tax rate, period. That's our only levy amount. It's been set since 1992. That amount per dollar, which we will talk about later in the budget, doesn't change for any of us. And that's the money that goes into the general fund. Your assessed value changes. And as your assessed value changes, the dollar amount from that rate, the rate doesn't change, but your assessed value goes up. We get a little bit more
I know. I see.
for the general fund. As the amount we get from our places on the general fund adds to the general fund. The amount that Roth's or the Ash Creek Center, because it's in the urban renewal district, the amount that their value goes up doesn't go to the general fund. It goes to the urban renewal fund. The difference between what it was when it started and what it is today goes to the urban renewal fund because they are in the urban renewal district. So the general fund doesn't increase as much property tax revenue as it might otherwise, but it doesn't take anything away.
I think I need a remedial tutorial.
We'll do it later. We got some.
It
I
should
think
be,
we have a little bit better explanation in the urban renewal plan. Maybe that will help. So we can get that.
Thank you very much, Chair. A picture sometimes is worth 1,000 words. This is a picture stolen from the city of Wilsonville, but if someone could, Pam, do you have control of the screens up there? Could you share the picture I just sent? I just sent it in an email. I know that we have something even better in a slideshow somewhere, but I wasn't able to easily find it, so.
I don't think we can do that, right? Because she's not connected to the network.
Oh, okay, no one controls
So,
it, never mind.
yeah.
Well,
Sorry.
You can send it out.
yeah, we'll send it out. Wonderful explainers on how that triangle works. And I'm a visual person, so the visuals help me a lot. Sorry, Ben.
Moving on, great. Five. Agenda item 5, number 6, public comment on the urban renewal. The mayor's budget. Any public comment related to the urban renewal district proposed 27 budget? Seeing none, go to the next agenda item. And presentation on the urban renewal agency funds.
Yeah, so Oh, go ahead. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair. So this is just going to be a very quick budget overview. There are some projects that are identified in the capital outlay section in regard to money moving to our sewer SDCs or other infrastructure projects. And if you would like more detail on those, it is in the CIP, or it could have some of our department heads come up and talk about those projects briefly if you'd like. But first, I'll just highlight some revenue areas. So again, the estimated revenue is 1.01 million, and the incremental growth of property values continues to strengthen the urban renewal resources. As stated, in the total budget is 7.6 million with a 3.36 million reserve balance. Please note there's a Scrivener's error on the money that was placed in reserve, so it needs to be reduced by 20,000, and that will be fixed in the approved budget. Again, we talked about the 5 million in additional debt, contingent on the favorable market conditions, and that debt will be used to fund the projects identified within the budget. Again, if any of you have any questions about more of the technical budget aspects, I'm happy to answer those, but the majority of those funds are for project specific.
Chair. So just to clarify, on the revenue section on page 5, if we don't take out the bond, then our total revenue to be able to spend or invest is the 2.629.
Mm-hmm.
That would be all we would spend this year. Okay, thank you.
Correct.
Any further questions?
The projects that it would consume that 0.6 or more, are those already collected and approved and
Everybody's,
it's
Yeah.
already set?
Yes.
that's the stuff in appendix 1, and it's got priorities 1.
If any of these are not shovel ready jobs, then that money that's set aside, what happens to that? Allocated.
Yeah, so the funds would be there until those projects are either one, they move forward with them, or two, the Urban Renewal Agency Board reprioritizes those funds.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any further question?
Not a question, but a statement, and this is something, gonna jump to the CIP related to urban renewal funds. That is not in the next calendar year budget, but is in the following budget. I'm just very excited for. A lot of times urban renewal things go to infrastructure builds that we don't see a lot. But in this case, I'm gonna take your the project number 1502103. That is the Ash Creek Trail Development. And this is something that, since I very first moved here and started down that stub of the Little Ash Creek Trail behind Talmadge, and came up against a tree line. I'm just incredibly excited to see, this inch closer to reality. And again, the value of urban renewal funds, not just building infrastructure, but to building infrastructure that, makes the city eminently more livable. So this one that's near and dear to my heart that I wanted to call attention to, that's still a year or so out.
Or after we get the land.
Well, let
Hey.
me file in whatever, but excited.
Wilburst and I actually worked on that initial project and built the shelter that is at the current end of the Ash Creek Trail, so it's been that long. that the city's been planning to go beyond that.
As I said,
Please shelter.
I've never expected myself to be on a roof in Independence in rain, having been elected mayor the first time, and that's where I found myself. I'll tell you more later.
Beautiful
I like it.
mosaic.
Yes.
Any more questions? Item approval of the 2011 Monmouth urban renewal. We just need questions.
Well, that's a little premature, don't you agree?
So thank you, Chair, and we are, we can continue deliberations at the next meeting, absolutely. Yeah, you don't have to approve the budget this evening. If you want to deliberate more and have further conversation, absolutely can.
I would certainly wish to do that. I think others would too.
Make a motion.
I would like to move to approve the fiscal year 2027 Monmouth Urban Renewal Agency budget.
Second.
Move to approve the fiscal year 2027 Monmouth urban renewal agency budget. Roxanne seconded. Any discussion relating to the approval of the fiscal year 2027 budget?
Thank you, Chair. I'll say that I find this to be a strong budget. I appreciate the explanation of the 5 million in funds that we may or may not increase in indebtedness. I also, I think in interest of transparency, would enjoy sharing some of the visuals around how urban renewal finance works. Maybe this isn't the time and place, but I'm on the fence a little bit on whether or not we should approve this tonight. I don't see any problems with it, but I do believe that a shared deep understanding is important for this body, and that's my only hesitation. So we'll see. Thank you. Mr. Carey.
Thank you. I would, Dennis, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
John Kerry did.
Go ahead, sir.
Just, it's a little hard for me to communicate, so I'm not gonna be in on a lot of it, but one of the things that I think we need to recognize on this urban renewal budget and the whole urban renewal deal, if you look down on Appendix 1, there's $1 million that's gonna go towards a water system upgrade and develop some master plan. If you look down below that, there's a sewer project that urban renewal is going to contribute $1.3 million. All of those are, the investment in that is staving off rate increases for the ratepayers for water and for sewer. Because if it weren't for the urban renewal dollars that flow into this, then that would be added to the ratepayer. That would be a rate increase to pay for those necessary needs. So, this is a proven system. We've been very judicious with it. I think there's a general misunderstanding about it, and I understand that, and I've picked that up from Rich and from Tom in particular, and that makes I get that. There can be some education done on that. I don't think there's anything clandestine. I think this is helping our ratepayers, especially as I'm looking at this in water and sewer. So I think I'm voting yes if we get to that.
Yeah, sorry. The other thing I just wanted to say is that I don't see any particular changes from last year. The urban renewal agency hasn't reprioritized. We didn't get the 5 million, so we didn't do anything out of this. This is basically last year's plan. So I'm not sure why it was okay last year and not this year.
I think this is about the 5 million that we're talking. It's not about the budget that I'm concerned about. It's about trying to get the additional 5 million, whether I want to approve with you going forward on it.
I would agree with Councilor Lopez. I'm just, nothing that I see is concerning about this, but I think in the interest of just having a well-informed body that we take a little bit of extra time before we place a formal vote yea or nay on it. If we can postpone this until maybe first thing in our next meeting, give those conversations a little bit of a chance, that would be in the interest of our citizens.
I'll put the motion on the table.
Yeah, we
We
gotta
need
vote.
to vote on it after conversation.
Okay, great, fantastic. Let us take a vote on the motion. So all those in favor?
Do we have to do a voice vote?
I think we have to do a roll call, so we'll do roll call.
Yeah, the law's changed and on almost every vote like this now, except maybe like attendance. The secretary, recording secretary has to record a voice vote, so she'll do a roll call.
Great, thank you. Pam, if we could get a roll call vote on the approval of the fiscal year 2027 budget.
Committee member Lopez,
Nay.
committee member Phelps,
Aye.
committee member Graham,
Nay.
committee member Kistler,
Aye.
committee member Ridgway,
Nay.
committee member Oberst,
Aye.
committee member McKeel,
Yes.
committee member Carey,
Aye.
He's so cute.
committee member Kistler.
You already
You already
voted.
did.
You two votes.
Committee member Lowry,
In Chicago.
He's not here. Absent.
committee member or Chair Martinez,
Aye.
committee member Perry,
Nay.
committee member Salinas Oliveros,
Aye.
committee member Youngs,
Nay.
committee member Pills,
Aye.
committee member McKeel.
I voted no.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Oh, so sorry. So sorry, that was my fault. I didn't see her. I was just trying to be helpful.
I already voted.
Okay.
I voted yes. Oberst, did you vote?
Yeah, I voted.
So I have 8 in favor and 5 opposed.
I received a majority in favor. The budget is approved.
Chair, may I add one thing?
Yes.
So I am more than happy to put together some visual and some explanation about how an urban renewal district works, what the debt looks like. I won't have it ready by our next meeting, but I'll definitely put something together so it will help with it is a complicated process and confusing about how all the property tax works and how it flows and how we actually are able to use that money to capitalize on projects. So I'm more than happy to put something together for the committee.
Well, I certainly would expect that not just us here, but the people in general in the community would want to know how this is going to affect their property and their taxes. So that'd be great.
I would just like to make one note. So it was discussed about sharing some images and those types of things. And so due to the public meetings law, we're being very careful about that. So that's why we had questions come in and Sean did questions, answers and provided that on a written document, which we're going to provide to you in the meeting. So just so everyone understands why we're doing it that way, we're just being careful that we don't violate the meeting.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you to our River Gold staff for all their achievements. Having done all our work, I will adjourn our meeting.
Thank you.
We go. Oh.
Now, again.
So, okay, so now we've done. Well, we did it at the first meeting. Oh, we did. Oh, that's right. 302. Get off me. You can't do it. We have to redo it again for the. I already done. No. Okay, we'll just let it go.
I mean, that was a meeting of the, meeting of the budget committee.
The kickoff?
The kickoff meeting was noticed, it was a full meeting of the budget committee.
It was.
So I think when we elected him.
We did? I don't remember doing it at the meeting.
Pull up the
We didn't do it at
minutes.
the meeting.
Yeah, look at
So-
the minutes.
I'm gonna pull up the minutes right now. Look at this.
The kickoff, we did.
We're gonna find out.
Is that the kickoff meeting or is that Lester's budget? Seriously, don't remember that.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope,
No, we didn't.
nope. Otherwise, she's got me sign it, so you can. I've already done the law.
Okay. Sorry about this, we're getting organized. So, we've already done, so we're switching over to now the city budget. We've already done the welcome introductions, the election, budget committee chair and secretary, appointment of the recording secretary. I actually need the chair to actually open the meeting and then we can start with approval of minutes.
All area, City of Monmouth Budget Committee meets.
And now we're on agenda item 4, approval of the minutes of the March 12th, 2026 meeting.
No, I think we said we did not elect them yet.
Oh, we do need to.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, I apologize, Chair. We do need to do the elections. Again.
Call from the floor for nominations for Budget Committee Chair. Alright.
Same guy.
I nominate Antonio Martinez.
Seconds. Graham seconds. Any other nominations? That are not. Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Seeing none. Elected chair, any nominations for committee secretary?
I'll nominate Rebecca.
Second.
Any other nominations? Being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Seeing none, Rebecca appointed secretary. Appoint Pam as recording secretary and number 4, approval of minutes from March 12th, 2026. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from that meeting?
I move to approve the minutes from last year.
Is there a second?
1 second.
Yeah, this isn't last year, this is the March 12th.
Sorry.
Introductory meeting, we all.
2027?
26,
This.
March 12th.
That's meeting we have.
It was a kickoff meeting.
Yeah, the
Oh, yeah,
format.
okay, like I said, it's March 12th.
I will amend the motion to minutes for March 2026.
Great.
And I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Do I need a roll call? Or is it all good? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed? Seeing none, the minutes are approved. Number 5, budget message and overview. Our city manager.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Mayor, Council, and Budget Committee members. I am presenting the proposed fiscal year 2026-27 budget for the city of Monmouth. This budget reflects a disciplined and balanced financial plan that meets Oregon budget law requirements, aligns with council fiscal policies, and continues our commitment to best practices in financial management, evidenced by our 6th consecutive GFOA Distinguished Budget Award. The total proposed budget is approximately $49 million, representing a 13.5% decrease from the prior year. This reduction is primarily due to the completion of the ARPA-funded projects, which had temporarily increased available resources in previous years. What we are seeing now is a return to baseline operating conditions without the benefit of one-time federal funding. At the same time, we are experiencing increasing cost pressures, particularly in personnel services, which are projected to rise by over 10%, largely driven by healthcare cost increases. This creates a structural tension. Revenues are stabilizing or slowing, and costs, especially personnel, continue to rise. A key factor in maintaining stability this year is the public safety fee, originally adopted in 2024. That fee has stabilized the general fund, supported staffing, including officers and a full-time community service officer, funded critical equipment such as a police vehicle. As part of the public safety fee, a 40-cent surcharge was included to help folks who needed assistance. This assistance program has not been utilized. I apologize that I didn't include more detail in my budget message, but I have provided for you the schedule that shows the revenue that we received from that 40 cents assistance, which averages about $1,700 a month in revenue, and then what was dispersed through Polk County FCO. So you can see that since we started collecting it in FY 24-25 from October through June, the revenue came in at about $15,391. What was dispersed was $256. And then in 25-26, revenue came in at about so far this year, $15,657. And what's been dispersed has been $411. So when I say that it's not been utilized, I wanted to show you the status so that you understood. So on April 21st, the Monmouth City Council received a presentation from Polk County FCO and had a work session to discuss the assistance program. And go through that. So the assistance program funds, one of the other things that was an obstacle is that for Polk County, those funds could only be used to cover, the assistance fee could only be used to cover the public safety fee, which is about $10.55 this year. So for them to cut $10.55 checks is very difficult. Actually, it costs more than to cut that check. So the only people that were really receiving the public safety fee assistance were those that were going in for utility bill assistance, which the city provides $10,000 to Polk County FCO for an assistance program. So when they came in to get they were having a hard time paying their utility bills, then they would add on the public safety fee assistance. And that's the disbursements that you see. So that was another issue as to why the program wasn't working. So council had a work session, and council direction was to reallocate the 40-cent surcharge revenue already collected to support public safety, to discontinue the assistance program going forward, and to fold the 40-cent surcharge into the total public safety fee. So the proposed FY 27 fee in this budget is $10.87, and this includes the standard 3% increase as of July 1, 2026. That was so that happens every year. This adjustment ensures the funding is fully supporting ongoing public safety operations. To balance this year's budget, staff implemented significant cost reductions: 6.5% reduction in materials and services, 33.9% reduction in capital outlay, deferral of major projects, including the library roof replacement, which I had mentioned at the kickoff meeting that we were hoping to be able to fund this year, but we don't have the funds to support that project. So it's really important to be very clear that this is the last year that we can rely on reductions of this scale without impacting service levels. It was very hard for us to get to the 12.5 operating contingency in the general fund, and we did the cuts to get to that, but we need to get it to 15% because the 12.5 is a reduction And so it's really showcasing the fact that we have to have a larger discussion about what we're gonna do. Are we gonna impact service levels? Are we gonna reduce staff? Are we gonna try to create other revenue to be able to help support the general fund? Okay. One of the things we're gonna focus on this year is that staff, I want staff to conduct a comprehensive review of all of our fees that we currently assess, and to evaluate and ensure that they are actually cost recovery. There's a lot of outdated schedules, and so we need to, not a lot, but I think there's a few that we need to go back through and just make sure that our fees are where they need to be. A major long-term challenge remains to be Oregon's property tax system. Because revenues are based on assessed value rather than real market value, the city captures only about half of the potential revenue growth. And at the same time, costs are increasing faster than revenues, and property tax growth is limited to roughly 3% annually. And even with future development opportunities, there will be a lag before revenues materialize. This budget aligns with council adopted goals, and I wanted to make a correction. The appendix noted in my budget message should be Appendix 2, not 3. The council goals are in Appendix 2 this year. Those goals, overlaying goals, are community engagement, climate, housing, economic development, and financial sustainability. Across the departments, you will see efforts focused on transparency and financial communication. Within the general fund, key priorities include operational efficiency and transparency, enhanced financial communication to the public, cross-department collaboration, service level evaluation, also technology improvements, continued IT transition through partnership with the City of Independence. We're going to be migrating to Microsoft 365 this year, increased cybersecurity and system resiliency. On the public safety, you're going to see priorities about filling officer vacancies, implementing new technology, including drones and Axon tools, and addressing facility maintenance needs. For community development, we're going to be focusing on advancing housing development, completing the economic development strategy, supporting infrastructure and land readiness. For library, parks, and senior services, expanding access and programming, addressing deferred maintenance, identifying funding opportunities for senior services. For the utility funds or the enterprise funds, they reflect targeted and necessary rate adjustments. For water, there's a 5.5% increase. For stormwater, a 3% increase. For power and light, a 6% increase. And for sewer, no increase this year. We are going to be starting a sewer rate study to look at some analysis on our rates to confirm that we're charging the correct rate. Some of the key initiatives for the utility funds are going to be the regional water treatment planning, water reuse system development, infrastructure maintenance and system upgrades, SCADA, and electrical system improvements. The FY27 budget includes approximately $10.1 million in capital projects, and some of those highlights are water, sewer, and stormwater master plans, regional water treatment design, Riddle Road infrastructure improvements, and Gwynn Street connection project. These projects represent strategic investments in long-term infrastructure. A few notable highlights for the other funds. The trolley, I'd just like to touch on that. Continued strong ridership in the past year. We've had over 124,000 rides. Short-term funding has been secured, but the long-term funding strategy is still needed. For the street fund, going after a Safe Routes to School grant, and then traffic safety improvements, and for economic development, a strategy update and exploration of a small business loan program. This past year included significant organizational transition, the leadership changes in finance and public works, internal promotions and restructuring, and then creation of new roles to improve operational support. That's in the public works area. This budget includes a 3% COLA for non-represented employees, continued step increases for staff, and rising benefit costs, particularly healthcare. As we move forward, the financial outlook remains challenging due to the rising personnel and benefits, the structural revenue limitations, and increasing service demands. Despite this, the city remains focused on maintaining core services, strategic infrastructure investment, and transparent and responsible financial management. This budget reflects a balanced, thoughtful approach, one that addresses immediate needs while acknowledging the difficult decisions ahead. I would like to To close by recognizing the work of staff, particularly our new finance director, whose efforts were critical in bringing this budget together under tight timelines. She's been here 3 weeks. Yes. And I want to thank the council, the budget committee, and the community members for your continued engagement and partnership through this process. Together, that collaboration ensures we remain responsive, responsible, and prepared for the future. And that's the end.
Thank you, Rochelle. Now we move on to agenda item number 6. Public comment on the proposed fiscal year 2027 budget. I have a resolution to my comment on the proposed fiscal year 2027 budget. You want to go ahead and come up and state your name and address for the record, please. Oh, and public comment is limited to 3 minutes.
Yes, correct. Thank you. Watching that, David Pastor and
Sorry, sir. You state your address.
100 Mistletoe Road.
Thank you.
Okay, sure. Official title, gravel browser, maybe. But in any event, today is Cinco de Mayo. And so we joined our Mexican friends to celebrate 1862, I think it was, when the Mexicans defeated the French in Puebla. And one of the heroes of that event was Benito Juarez, who later became the president of Mexico for 14 years.
I'm sorry, sir. If you keep your comments related to the budget.
Yes, I'm getting there.
Okay, just want to make sure. Sorry.
I'm getting there. So in any event, he was a very honest man. He was like the Abraham Lincoln of Mexico, and honesty in politics is extremely important. And that's what I asked on page 38, I believe, of the budget. There's a city value cut that mentions communication and engagement. And it maintains timely, and I think it's 38 because my iPad sometimes numbers differently. So I'm not sure exactly what that pertains. Is it not page 38?
No, that's
34.
it's the first.
34, okay, thank you. I don't know why the iPad doesn't do it, thank you. It says city value, communication and engagement, maintain timely and accurate public information. So that's obviously a concern I've had in other meetings. But first of all, I want to thank the council members and the others in the budget committee. You're volunteers and you've given a lot of time, a lot more than me, to serve the community. And I appreciate that and applaud you for your efforts. I don't always agree with some of the decisions you recently made, but I know you did them in sincerity and you work hard. So I appreciate that very much and want to recognize you. Also too, I guess one of the things that I would ask is, could you find a spot in the budget for the public address system? It seems to be difficult for people to hear without the headset. And I've heard that you're going to be working on that. So that would be my one specific request. How much time do I have?
1 second.
Oh, 1 minute. Maybe I'll tell you a quick story that's really interesting. Ronald Reagan, when he became president, had Tip O'Neill as his adversary in the House of Representatives, a very strong Democrat. And he got Tip O'Neill, an Irishman, together at his home, and they had a wonderful meal together, enjoyed telling Irish stories. The next day, Tip O'Neill tore into him in the media. And Reagan said, I thought we were friends. And O'Neill said, well, that was before 6 p.m. 6 p.m., we're friends, not before. So every time thereafter Reagan saw Tip O'Neill, he'd say, change my clock to 6 in my watch at 6 p.m. So he tried to develop communication and engagement. And I think it's extremely important for us to do that, to keep talking with each other. So I think that's all. A couple other things real quickly. I want to compliment Sabra Jewell. She is, and this is a pun, a gem, for you as a city. She's always active and does wonderful refreshments and provides things for us. And I also want to contact more for her work as city recorder because she does an excellent job. Thank you for the time, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, no more public comment. We'll move to number 7, budget summary.
Thank you, Chair. There's going to be some redundancy between my budget message and Rochelle's budget message. So, and then also, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail regarding some of the other departments. I'm going to let them discuss their departments and activities. So really just a high level message to the committee. So fiscal year 27 proposed budget is $49 million estimated and is balanced across all funds and maintains the city's commitment to financial stability. The budget reflects current economic conditions, operational needs, and strategic investment while planning for the future risk and infrastructure needs. Some of the key drivers and changes in fiscal year 27 include that all operating funds realized a significant increase in personnel costs, which personnel costs make up nearly 61% of our total budget for the city. General fund personnel costs increased by 10.8% due to police compression adjustments, healthcare costs, and 3% COLA for non-represented. And then COLAs for our represented employees and also step increases. Fuel costs, which is a question that actually the chair had earlier, and the responses to his questions have been placed in front of you, but I wanted to address that because given the economic environment, this is something that I will be monitoring as it does have a significant impact across every area of our budget. So fuel costs are budgeted conservatively based on current price trends, the revenue forecast presented by the state, and forecasts from the U.S. Energy Information Administration. These models from all three sources anticipated gas prices will stabilize and return to pre-conflict prices by mid-fall. However, if that does not occur, the price impacts will not only increase fuel cell sales to our fire district and also Minette, but these rate increases or these fuel increases will impact every aspect from materials and services to our capital projects to just operational impacts as well for day-to-day activities. So these, I will continue to monitor this. We may have to make some adjustments. Just as a side note, in our gas revolving fund, it is looking like we're going to be approximately 30,000 over budget because gas prices have increased so significantly. So I am monitoring that and will be discussing a supplemental with our city manager. Materials and services and capital outlay have decreased, as Rochelle had mentioned, and a lot of that has to do with the ARPA funded investments having been exhausted and spent. Revenue highlights: property tax remain the largest general fund revenue source, growing at approximately 3% a year. State shared revenue continues to decrease as gas, cigarette, and liquor tax revenue have been declining year over year. Marijuana tax is actually anticipated to increase slightly, but not enough to offset the reductions that we're seeing in the other areas. As Rochelle talked about, this proposed budget also includes the 40 cents added to that used to go to the assistance program, added to the public safety fee that would fully go to the police department to cover its 2 police officer positions, and then keeping the community service officer position at 1 FTE. It was reduced a couple of budget cycles ago. This fee actually helped restore that to 1.0 FTE. And then also replacing a vehicle as part of our vehicle replacement program under our CIP. And so this also, because of resolution 1997 that allows for us to budget an additional 3%, our estimated revenue is pretty close to $600,000 for the public safety fee if approved. Some revenues like court fines remain below historical average. A lot of that has to do with some restructuring, moving criminal court out. to the county, and then just citation revenue is a little bit down. To help offset that, at one of the council meetings, we were directed to terminate the employment agreement with the judge. And we're gonna be renegotiating the contract to get a lower rate and to adjust the services for the docket size that we're seeing right now. So there will be some cost savings with that new contract. In the next few months, I'll be working with the city manager and the department heads to review the fee structure for services to ensure that the city is recovering its costs to perform services. Real quick fund overview. So enterprise funds, which is really our utilities, is 54% of our total budget. Special revenue funds are 19%, general fund is 13.4%, and the remaining funds such as debt service, which we'll talk about later, and our internal services funds is 1.6%. The general fund focus is really the police department, which is one of our largest departments in general fund. They have about 61% of our budget from general fund at 4.8 million, and the library represents about 12.6. Management and finance is approximately 6.6, which there is a little bit of reorganization that has happened that I'll talk about when we get to the management and finance department section overview. So reserves and financial health, general fund reserves are stable at 12.5%. Pressures include personnel costs and inflation. Expenditures are continually outpacing revenues, especially in the general fund. And the PERS rates remain stable for fiscal year 27, but new rates will come out in 2028. It's anticipated that the increase in these PERS rates are going to be significant. Currently, the city participates in a pension obligation bond with other cities to help offset these costs. That bond will be paid off in 2028. So staff will be discussing if another bond needs to be considered and talking to other cities that have participated in this. And we will bring back our information to the budget committee and council next year. So when we're preparing for the budget next year, already planning ahead.
Can you plan the market conditions to actually make it possible?
Well, I don't believe gas prices are gonna go down, so there is that.
Not good either.
Either. So risk and considerations, not just for the general fund, but all fund. Again, the rising healthcare and pension costs. Our revenues are just not keeping up with contract negotiations and what those contracts come up with as far as COLAs and other things, incentives. Infrastructure funding demands, keeping up with deferred maintenance to avoid system failure or major system replacements. Reliance on economic growth for revenue stability. And then just, basic capital and infrastructure needs. We had the luxury of ARPA dollars that we were able to do a lot with. With those going away, now we really need to figure out how we're going to move forward with some of these major projects. So keeping that in mind as we review operating budgets, our SDC funds, and the CIP document. So closing message, the fiscal year 27 budget is balanced and reflects fiscal responsibility. General fund departments have extremely lean budgets, and prioritization of public safety, services, and infrastructure has been achieved for the fiscal year 27 budget, and all funds maintain the required reserves as dictated in policy. And with that, I will conclude my presentation.
Thank you so much. We have an insert, right? We have an updated budget summary that was down by
So yes, we have an updated budget summary, and So what I'm gonna do is when we get to the general fund revenue, I'm gonna talk about, because there's two new, there's two new documents that had to be revised, and both of them were formula issues in my workbook. But I'll explain that when we get to the general fund revenues.
Agenda item. Agenda item number 8, revenue sharing. Open up a public hearing on the election to the state revenue sharing. A little background on.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'll go ahead and give some background on the state shared revenue. So cities are receiving state shared revenue from 5 different state shared revenue programs during a fiscal year. These include cigarette tax, marijuana tax, gas tax, general receipts from state revenue, and liquor tax. Most state shared revenues are distributed based on population. Others have a more complex calculation methodology. For example, the gas tax is dependent on revenue increases from the Highway Trust Fund. And as a result of the scaled down transportation package that happened this last biennium by the state, the gas tax revenue distributions to cities has decreased. The state shared revenue estimate that will go to the general fund in fiscal year 27 is $331,000. And the gas tax for the street fund for transportation is estimated at $900,000. The total state revenue share is projected to be $1,231,000, approximately $30,000 less than this current fiscal year. And with that, I'll turn it back to you.
So, need a motion to accept state share, revenue.
Okay, so moved.
I think we have to hold a public hearing, so you actually have to
Okay.
open for public comment on this specifically before we can have.
Great, thank you. So I open up the public hearing. Does anybody from the public wish to speak to the election to receive state revenue share? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Now open it up for a motion to approve revenue sharing from the state. There.
So,
Second.
Great. During discussion regarding to accepting receiving state revenue share. Being none, I'm gonna roll call vote. Thanks. Yeah, second from Chris.
Committee member Hill,
Yes.
committee member Ridgway,
aye.
committee member Belts. Aye. Committee member Lopez,
Aye.
committee member Carey,
Aye.
committee member Coombs. Aye. Committee member Oberst,
Yes.
committee member Kistler,
Aye.
chair Martinez,
Aye.
committee member Perry,
Aye.
committee member Graham,
Aye.
committee member Lowry,
Absent.
absent. Committee member Youngs,
Aye.
committee member Salinas Alvarez. Aye. All in favor.
I've received,
Oh,
Okay.
You got it. Wow, I just can't keep up with him.
Perry.
I received a majority in favor. Motion passes. We'll now move to general fund presentations with related, well,
Did we have a short majority? After an hour and a half?
for if you insist, we'll have a 10-minute break.
At 8 o'clock. It's 7:51.
We'll reconvene at 8 o'clock.
8 minutes. from now.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Oh, no.
I'll go back to our, screen for presentation.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Thank you for.
Okay, thank you, Chair and Committee. So the revenues that I want to make sure you're looking at the right page. So this workbook that I was working in was very interesting. It had some links that broke when we created a new department, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But anyway, so there is a new revenue page that was handed out today that I would like you to reference. The bottom line numbers didn't change and the numbers in the categories did not change. It was the order. For some reason, the public safety fee rolled up into the sewer fund. I don't know why, but we got that cleared up.
That be the one that's page 25 in our budget? Are we replacing it with this one?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep. I'll make sure that these get all numbered for the approved budget. So basically, what we're looking at is our net working capital is proposed to decrease by about $200,000. A lot of that has to do again with personnel costs and some other expenditures related to personnel. Our tax resources, so our again, current year property tax for fiscal year 27 was calculated based on a 3% growth. That's a conservative rate, but something that through state budgeting law, they recommend that we budget. There's prior year taxes in there, and that's just anybody that has delinquent taxes and paid late. We budget a little bit for that. And then our local marijuana tax revenue, which is earned from businesses selling recreational marijuana here in town. Yeah. And then we already talked about the state revenue, shared revenue. That's that next section where it says revenues from other agencies. So that money is actually transferred to us from the Department of Administrative Services. So we already talked about that and you accepted it. Again, we talked about the court receipts and why those are going down, as you can see from previous fiscal years. But we're also doing cost reduction measures to offset that decrease.
Sean, I do have a question.
Yes.
On those shared revenues, you're talking about liquor tax revenue going down, which I see from budgeted 25, 26, to this one, but the estimated actual is actually even less.
Correct.
So you're proposing an increase from that estimated actual?
So I don't, so to be honest, I'm not sure that estimated actual is actual. So we have one more payment that's coming in that I think will boost us up into, not totally the 95, but it will get us closer to around the 190.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So that's one thing with the state share revenues is those are distributed quarterly. So these estimates were based on what the current revenue was in our system. And I should have caught that and updated it. But we should get one more quarterly payment that will get us kind of close to what we budgeted. License fees and permits. So again, these are all pretty stable, nothing real significant. One thing that I do want to talk to the committee about is I've been looking at the line items that say in lieu of taxes for the sewer fund, water fund, storm fund, and power and light. So I'm looking at doing a proposal for next fiscal year to change that, because what it's really doing is taking an estimated revenue from what our enterprise funds make and just transfers it to the general fund. We already have a line item that says support to the general fund in these same funds. So it seems redundant and maybe just look at that again and figure out an allocation methodology rather than looking at something like this. So I will be looking at that. Again, I have the public safety fee revenue budgeted, so it's at 593. That balance does include also some of the revenue that we're gonna get back from the
Polk County SU.
Yes. So that's not all, the fee that's gonna be on, that revenue's not the entire fee that's gonna be on the utility bills, next fiscal year. So that'll go down, in fiscal year 28 a little bit because there's an increase with that refund. Library, revenue remains, straight lined, and then grants, and donations. So again, that just depends on if we get grants or donations. So we made a very conservative estimate on those. Charges for services, again, that remains a little bit higher than what we budgeted this year. That might be a little optimistic, but we'll keep an eye on that. And then we just have some other transfers in. So I do want to point out, so we, one thing I didn't mention in my budget summary is that when we talked about the assistance program, we did increase that program to $20,000 in our budget. So there is some offset there. I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add to that or.
That is located in the MPL budget. So
Yeah.
you'll see utility
Mhm.
assistance and it's
Yep.
been 10,000. They used it on this, it's not on this report, but they had used it already. I think it was used in March of this year. And so the thought was to increase that to 20,000 to help residents who are having difficulty and need assistance on their utility bills. So you'll see that when we look at the MPL.
And then we do have a little bit budgeted for interest, and that is on our treasury accounts and our bank account. We earn a little bit of interest off of what we have in there. So with that, that's a summary of our revenues. Real quick, I do want to point out before we go into a department presentation that there were some questions that were posed prior to the meeting. And so those responses have been presented as well. And so if you have any questions on those throughout the budget process, feel free. One of them was, how much do we spend in a fiscal year on dues and memberships? And that will be the sheet that looks like this, has kind of a peach color on it. For the different fund types. And then the other one was questions in regards to the fuel tax and the public safety fee. And so those were our responses to those questions. Wanted to make sure that those were shared.
Thank you. There
Not a question, but since the dues and memberships are being presented here, I want to bring this body the latest and greatest information from the Homeless Alliance meeting earlier today. So this was a preliminary meeting. No decisions were made. But as you know, they're going through their budget process as well. And I represent Monmouth to the Homeless Alliance. The Homeless Alliance is considering rate increases to their rate. You can find it on this beautiful sheet there over on the left. It's in that top box. And they're considering, somewhere between a 5 to a 15% rate increase. The Homeless Alliance membership dues have not changed in a few years, and so they're looking at considering a modest increase to support the increasing costs that organization is facing
for their staffing and their work. And since we're discussing the Homeless Alliance, I'll give a very, very brief highlight of the utilities that they bring to the city. This organization, one of its main functions is to leverage, the collective governments and service providers to bring them together to be competitive for federal and to some extent state funds. And I don't have the figures in front of me exactly, but this has brought millions of dollars back into our community each year. In terms of homelessness prevention work, so largely rental assistance work. A lot of that is administered by Polk County FCO. The siting of the Polk County FCO office here in Monmouth happened after we joined the Homeless Alliance, so not a direct impact, but I believe that they are tied together. And the federal funding of, our youth shelter here in town, David's House. These represent not just the good work they do for the community, but untold jobs of the individuals who are working at these programs and also living here in our community. So there's multiple benefits, and again, all these are federal funds and not coming from your property tax.
Thank you.
Chair, I would like to ask to rearrange the agenda a little. Our police chief needs to leave a little bit early and has a conference he needs to get to. So I was wondering if we could go ahead and have the police department presentation.
No worries.
If the conference is someplace fun, then he needs to wait.
Never mind.
Pendleton.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and members of the budget committee. I'll just start by echoing other comments that I've heard tonight, and just thank you all for what you do. I know this is a lot of content. I know the work that staff does to put into that. I know it's a lot to digest and to wrap your head around. So thank you for all you do for that. I promise I'm not going to read this whole thing, but I'm going to read just the beginning part of our mission statement. And the reason I'm going to do that is just because as I talk about the budget, this is kind of my guiding light, what I use to develop that. So the mission of the Monmouth Police Department is to create a safe community and feeling of security by providing the highest quality of professional law enforcement services to every resident. To accomplish this mission, all members are held to a set of professional standards promoting dedication, consistency, efficiency, and a positive relationship with those served. MPD constantly strives to work together with community members in order to meet the challenges of modern day law enforcement. So I think about what do? We hire good people, we train them, we build relationships and communicate with the community, and we provide them the tools and resources to do a job, a tough job to do well. I'm gonna move down through here now. We are the only city department that's, everyone of course works kind of around the clock here. I think, in a small community that happens a lot, but we're really a 24/7, 365 agency. If you call 911, or even call the non-emergency line, there's always going to be an officer is working. So I'll highlight that. What makes up the administrative services, obviously myself and the lieutenant. Our supervision consists of 4 sergeants, and they're kind of the lifeblood of our agency. I'll say they kind of do a whole lot of things. We have 2 patrol sergeants that are on the road, actually taking calls for service and supervising the field. We have a detective sergeant that carries a caseload and supervises investigations. And then finally, we have support services sergeant that does a whole lot of administrative tasks. They help with grants, building maintenance, a whole variety of things. We have 10 officers. We don't have currently staffed 10 officers, but we're allotted 10 officers in the budget. And that's part of the public safety fee that covers 2 of those.
Currently, we have 8 officers, so we have an opening right now. We're trying to fill our final 2 spots. We have a full-time community service officer. And then for our support staff, we have a record supervisor, a records tech that also splits time doing evidence. As we get into, and I won't read again all these, but for our fiscal year priorities and really our department accomplishments, what you'll find is that, you know, really what a lot of these things point to is it's related to hiring, and it's different training initiatives that we hope to accomplish and things that we are able to accomplish, and also our community engagement and different events that we participate in and partnerships that we have. And I apologize. I think that you're all following along, but just so, for the record, we started on page 37, and I'm working through now on page 40. So as we look at our expenditure highlights, there's a lot of things in the budget this year that are very similar with really modest increases. And there's a couple things that are much more noticeable, and I'll kind of highlight those right now. But we do see an increase, of course, in professional services, which you've heard about in the budget message, in the budget summary, and that's, you know, largely due to the wages and fringe benefits for our staff. And then we have the other thing in our materials and services is the increase to 911 services. We're part of the Willamette Valley Communications Center, and it's a great thing that we're a part of. I don't know that we could really afford to do it in any other way. But with that being said, we do pay those increases, and some of those things are, there's aging building that they work out of that they have to plan to replace. They also kind of, they operate the CAD system. So our computer-aided dispatch system that we all use when we get the 911 call for service, those, just like any other software that ages, you have to plan for new ones, and those are millions of dollars. And so these costs, as you're preparing for those, they're of course part of the consortium, and which Monmouth is part of. We all bear a cost or a part of that, and so there was a 9.6% increase in that line item this year for us. Another one of the big ones that I'll highlight is we do a 5-year contract for our police body cameras that we have used for the last 10 years. I think it's an important piece of equipment that we use. That contract was up this year, and you know, we went from, you know, paying roughly $20,000 a year to the new contract is just over $80,000. And it's unfortunate in a lot of ways, but I will say that there are some really neat features that, you know, we talk about technology and some of the priorities we have. It's important for us to stay relevant and give our officers the tools they need to do the job. But I understand that you look at that, and that's a lot, and it really is. But some of the things that we get with that, and I'll just highlight really quick, but I think it's going to be a force multiplier, because we're not looking to add officers, but this is going to make our officers' time on the road, I think, that much better. This helps us, the body cameras actually help with report writing. We have just rolled that out, and we have a translation tool that's built into the body cameras that I want to say it's 26 of the most common languages that you can speak in your body camera and instantly translate. And that also goes into the police report. So there's some of these things that's included that we were able to get at a discounted rate, even though it doesn't feel like it now, because we agreed to do this contract now, and we get the upgrades that happen with AI and everything else for the next 5 years. So kind of locking in a lower rate now, and that's something that we are moving forward with. And then the purchase of also 1 new patrol vehicle, and I also have some funds programmed. We're very fortunate to have the building that we have, but we have been in there for a little over 10 years now, and there's some things that are starting to fail. And one of those is our HVAC, and so we have a unit that does need replacing. As you look on page 41, this again just highlights our personnel. So there is no change from last year. And then down below, you'll see just some of the workload things that are in here. On the final page, page 42, I kind of talked to some of these things, but again, I'll highlight a couple of the line items. You'll see the 911 services, you'll see the roughly $10,000 increase there. Going down to even uniforms, there's a slight increase there. Part of that is when we rebranded, buying things like badges and things like that. That's not cheap, you know, it's a one-time deal, so hopefully, again, there's a reduction after we complete those purchases. Looking at facility maintenance and repair, again, over a year prior, this is an increase, and that's my best guess. You don't always know when things are going to fail. I wish that I did, but that's me trying to at least prepare for that. You'll see that this year we did have some things that that did fail, and so it's a lot different than what we'd hoped to spend. Again, going down a little bit further, technology purchases, this is something that's increased over the last couple of years. And that's largely in part just because we had, you know, for all of our workstations, our ECDs, our mobile data terminals that our officers use for the better part of their day, those need to be replaced. And this is the second year of trying to get kind of a mass replacement. And I think you'll probably see some of that on some of the other departments' reports as well. And then again, I'm just going down to the capital for the equipment that reflects one patrol car and the Axon contract. And then for the facility improvements, that is year one of the, I guess, replacing the old air conditioning unit. With that, I will take any questions that there may be.
Thank you for the summary. Appreciate the work that the police department does, for lots of praise from the community on responsiveness. And the proposed budget seems very has modest increases that reflect, especially the body cameras reflect forward thinking and things that will help officers be more productive and more efficient, and likely reduce liability. Camera footage of an incident that's disputed in court. So I think that's a worthwhile investment. Certainly the HVAC and air conditioning in this day and age is some of the months. But I did want to ask you, and I'll ask other departments as well, about the dues and membership costs as it relates to your department. And looking at, I don't know if you have that available. Can you speak to how essentially one of those four items are in your department, if they're absolutely critical, if there's any wiggle room? I'm just looking at potential savings across the city, if there's any publications or memberships or dues clubs that we're part of that we can forego temporarily or at least re-examine.
Yeah, I think on, thank you for that question. And I'll tell you that I look at these things every year and I evaluate, because I think that there are things sometimes that phase out and that we don't need anymore. You know, the big ones we're part of the, you'll see on there, the Northwest Accreditation Alliance. I think that's an important one. That's really a best practices deal. We're not required as of yet by law to be accredited, but I think it's a kind of a showing that you, again, meet best standards. I think that we will in the future. They require agencies of a certain size to be accredited. And I think that we are coming up. So even if we were to let that go, it's something that we would likely have to pick back up again. But we have been accredited now for 6 years, and that's something that we have to pay towards. The other one is the Oregon Association of Chiefs of Police. That's actually, and there's only 2 of us that are a part of that association. And that's actually the conference that I'm going to next week. But, you know, it's through that conference that, you know, we are kept really in tune with changing legislation and all of those things that affect our daily jobs. And I think it's even a lifeline to other agencies and again, best practices, what they're doing, how they're navigating through different critical incidents or what have you. I mean, so it's a pretty, I see that as a pretty important thing that we're a part of. And then the last one on here, the International Association of Chiefs of Police. And this is something that myself and the lieutenant are part of. And I'll just tell you, I also think that's important. It's kind of the same thing that you get in Oregon, but on a national level. Obviously, I'm not paying for a full, it's probably not a full membership. I think it's associate membership, but it's publications, again, related to best practices, other national trends, those kind of things. So, does that answer your question?
Thank you, yes.
Question?
Yeah, sorry.
Help me understand, can you?
Sorry.
Microphone.
Oh. Okay. Under the Northwest Accreditation Alliance, is that in addition to the requirements of DPSST? Is it over and above that? Or help me understand why we have the state requirements that all of your officers have to have, and how is this different? How is this an enhancement?
The state requirements are, of course, good, and I think that in many cases they're robust, but it's also it's kind of the bare minimum, And so when you go to DPSST, you're meeting the requirement to become an officer or to maintain certain levels of certification for the officers. It's the initial training. The Northwest Accreditation Alliance is that's related to policy. And so when we, as a police department, when we are talking about how we handle vehicle pursuits, for example, when we're part of the Northwest Accreditation Alliance, you're part of, it's essentially a group of attorneys and other agency, heads, police chiefs. It's experts that are saying this is the best policy that's going to keep you to ensure that you're meeting standards and to keep you out of trouble. And so that's really what it is that it's helping with your policy manual and making sure that you're meeting the best practices. Because just because I'm certified, as a police officer doesn't mean that I'm going to I can still make poor decisions. This helps guide us in our day-to-day operations.
Okay, so, is that different from what you get from the Oregon Association of Chiefs of Police?
So again, the Northwest Accreditation Alliance would be pretty strictly, it's policy related. So there's policy updates that change all the time. There's always different changing laws and whatnot. And it's literally putting the policy out there, and then we train on that individually. What we get from the Oregon Association of Chiefs of Police, there's a lobbyist that's part of, our group that's looking out for the best interest of, communities and for police that they do. There's probably wasn't very prepared to answer this question tonight, but there is a lot more I think that goes into that. It's also relationships. So I'm part of like a kind of a sound off forum. So like whenever there's new things that come up in our world every day. And, being part of this association allows me to basically get on the forum. And if I have something that's individual that's happening, I'd be like, hey, this is going on in my community. Has anyone else dealt with this? How have you handled this? It's essentially a resource center. So you've got a policy one, and then you've got a resource center that's statewide.
Okay, thank you. One other question, this is clarity. On page 41, 2025, 2026, police personnel, it shows 19 FTE, but in the budgets for amended budget 2025-26, it shows 17.8, and then in the current budget, it shows 19.
Yes, thank you. I'll answer that. That's my fault. It's a typo. So this chart is actually correct. And I'll update that I just noticed that when we were discussing his budget.
Which one is correct?
The one on the chart, so 19.
Okay, all right. So that leaves us with, from the amended budget in 25-26 to the proposed budget, there's, under total personnel services, there's an 8.9% increase. 3% plus or minus comes from COLAs and fringe benefits. Where does the other 6 point something percent come from? 5 point something.
Yeah, I'm sorry, could you repeat that question? I'm a little.
According to my abacus math approved by Fred Flintstone, the amended budget 25-26 shows 3,067,000 change for personnel services, and then the proposed is 3.341.
Oh, yeah.
And that's an 8.94% increase. 3% of that is give or take. 3 to 4% is COLAs and fringe benefits. So what's the rest of it?
Yeah, so thank you for that question. As I mentioned earlier in my budget summary, so there was a compression issue between the chief, the lieutenant, and the sergeants and the officers. So we reevaluated those salary schedules and alleviated that. So there is an increase in the costs, and I don't.
Does not also include the 10% healthcare increase, which is not 3%, right? So.
Well, yeah, that's actually 14%, and then the officers, they got 3% as well, correct?
But you wrap them all up, does salary, insurance, PERS, and maybe have a couple other little options in there.
Yeah.
And that you put those all together, and the 14% increase in insurance will be mitigated somewhat by the other stuff. Okay, so, all right, so 3 to 4% overall increase in salary and benefits, and then the rest of it is the compression. So the brass got an increase as opposed to the
Yeah, so let me clarify. So one thing that happened before my time, but anyway, so non-represented staff did not get COLAs, or there was studies and there was salary freezes and other things. However, when you look at the union, the represented staff, they continued to get their COLAs and their increases. So their salaries were raising, where non-represented staff, their salaries were frozen, or they were getting smaller COLAs than what represented staff were getting. So what ended up happening is that you have officers that are making almost or the same as their sergeant. And if they're an FTO, they get, extra pay for that because they're field training of a new officer, and they can be making more. So to alleviate that compression issue, we increase the salaries. So in the appendix, there is a new non-representative salary schedule that identifies that the chief moved to a new pay grade, as well as the lieutenant and the sergeants.
Do the sergeants get overtime? Yeah. All right, thank you. All the questions I have.
Thank you, Chair. I have a couple of questions. I'm going to lead in on building on the prior questions there. My question is related to that salary increase, but rather looking back. So as opposed to looking forward. When we look at the 2025-26 estimated versus amended budget, we have, and my back of the napkin math, about a 5.7% decrease in the estimated actual versus the amended budget. And memory serves that this decrease has continued to trend similarly over the past couple of years. I understand, intuition would lead me to believe that, oh gosh, likely vacancy savings is part of that. Some of that gets sucked into that overtime that was mentioned, but there is still vacancy savings. And I hate to break down the term vacancy savings because that's service level not provided, right? It hurts me kind of going into this, looking at this 8.9% roughly increase in the personnel services, knowing that each year, we have a history of many years of not actually spending that. And so I just ask for something built in future budgets that takes that into account. I looked at our Monmouth Power and Light budget, the personnel services line, similarly, and I understand different industries, different, pressures, but some similarities. They're both union represented, and we do pay, I think, in MPL slightly lower than what some of the private industry does. So there are some comparators there. I'd be interested in looking at trying to because this is such a large proportion of our general fund budget. Looking at trying to, factor some of these things in maybe a little bit more intelligently in the future. That's not the right word, but I hope you understand what I mean, right? I know that a lot of this is intentional and intelligent, but it strikes me like we could be doing a little bit more to transparently show what we're actually going to spend, knowing the track record of not spending it.
I guess what I would say to that, and I totally get your point. I think it's very valid. We used to have a vacancy savings line item. And we took that out, and part of it was, I hated seeing that because every year, I would budget, and of course my goal is to keep everybody, and we maintain full staffing all the time. A lot of times that doesn't happen. We would have years where we're full staffed and other years where we weren't. But it's always been a best guess, and so sometimes I would be like, well, what if we are full staffed all year? I'm basically saying that I'm going to start $50,000, over budget. So it was one of those things that I was like, can we, I think I asked a former finance director, can we take that out? And so, maybe it behooves us to put it back in. And I think that, I don't know. I would probably defer to
me. And then we can help.
Got curious the other day as I was in this document, and I looked at department after department after department. What we budgeted last year and what the estimated end point was. Almost every place we spent less than we budgeted. This is not a bad thing. I like the idea that we tend to guess low on how much we're going to receive in revenues. We tend to guess high on how much we're going to spend. We wind up getting higher revenues and lower spending. Again, that's a good thing. I don't have a problem with showing us this budget line in the end that's we have spent 5.8% less than we thought. It's careful budgeting. Yeah, so.
Thank you, Chair. And one thing too, to add to that is this is actually a conservative approach, because if we're looking at building in vacancy savings, and yes, police departments typically have vacancies, but say he doesn't, then we are looking at other places to make cuts, which would not be personnel. It would be materials and services or potentially capital. So we would be looking at not paying the Axon contract or something like that. I mean, I have to say, when I was looking at the chief's budget, it is so lean, especially in materials and services, that to me, it's actually very concerning. So nothing can happen because he's not going to have the budget. The one good thing, especially, all these funds, if their budget isn't fully expended, it rolls back up into the working capital. And so we still have that money available for general fund, but to take the most conservative approach is always to budget revenues low and expenditures high, and it usually works out differently.
Another question?
Yes, one comment on that prior question, and I'll move to my next. The reason that I asked this question, and you're gonna hear me potentially ask this question in other funds and other times throughout this process, is that these numbers that, yes, we're budgeting conservatively, and I am a fan of that, end up translating into rate increases when we're having those difficult discussions on the back end. And so if we budget too conservatively, we may end up increasing rates more than we had to. And that's the nature of my concern. And, you know, this is, you know, proportionally, you know, the $3.3 million is a significant portion of our general fund. And that's why I highlight this here today. But thank you. Very satisfactory answers, and I do appreciate the intentionality and you know, carefulness and intelligence with which this is put together. My next question is about those the body cameras and you know, other associated I think tech that we use, you know, in terms of policing. Policing is one of the most sensitive things that our city engages in, right? There's a lot of risk. There's a lot of, you know, sensitivity for the people who we serve on both ends of whatever is going on out there. And so, you know, as we're investing more and more money into these technology components, I'd just like to hear a little bit about what we're doing to ensure that that data that's being collected through that technology is safe and also, you know, doesn't expose us or our communities to, you know, unintended risk.
Yeah, I think I can speak probably most directly, and I think at least to Axon, I will tell you that Axon is kind of the industry standard. You know, we've used or been a part of their ecosystem, I'll say, for the last 10 plus years. And it's a cloud-based system. You know, I think every agency now in Polk County, and of course much further beyond, but I think uses Axon. You know, it's really, I guess, I'll just say it's probably as safe as they come. I think there's a lot of other third-party vendors that are out there that maybe don't have the same standards or the same history or backbone behind it. But I feel very confident saying that Axon is as solid as they come when it comes to, you know, our data and how we use it, how we share it.
Thank you. That concludes my questions.
Councilor Carey?
Thank you. Good evening, Isaiah. You know, my question is, it sort of goes with some others that have filtered in here. And by the way, I'm glad we've got this budget where it is. We've been working on getting it there for a long time. And our staffing levels are where they need to be. And thank goodness for the public safety fee. That said, this budget is up over $600,000 from last year. The bottom line, but the estimated actual and then the proposed. In personnel services alone, it's $450,000. I would like to see a bit more, because we've got the same number of officers. We got 19 or positions, 19 in 25, 26, proposing 19 this year, up $450,000. There's a reason for that. But I'd like to see a little more detail on how we get to that. Unless I'm reading this wrong. You know, I understand we've got insurance and we've got the compression piece, got all that. Give me orders of magnitude on those. Because again, this is a due diligence type of a thing. And so I'm hoping that at some point along the line, you know, Sean, we can get some additional detail on that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely. I can provide some more detailed information about the salaries and kind of break down what the benefits are. And then also, I mean, there's some significant additional costs when looking at the Axon contract and the capital outlay area expenditures. But absolutely, I'll get you that salary information.
Any further questions? I think the chief. Wish him luck at his conference.
Thank you, Chief. Good luck in your conference.
Appreciate
it. Yes. Right. Drive safe. I'm just my lips is done. I think I'm done.
Now it's almost 9 o'clock.
Past 8:30, we recess for the night. There are no objections to that. Great.
I think, is there a 15-minute, I mean, we council often goes till 9 at least. Is there communications? Is that true?
So finance, management and finance will be very quick. So I think we can easily get through that. Can we do IT? He's part of it.
Okay. Fantastic. Now. And findings for that.
Okay, so thank you. Management and finance, the total budget is $451,334 with an FTE count of 0.67. The reason for the low FTE count is that positions in management and finance, such as the business and financial analyst, court clerk, accounting technician, city manager, my position, are all allocated across other operating funds as we perform, widely support all these other departments. The services that are provided in management and finance include the finance department, technical services, which you will hear from our new IT contractors from Independence very shortly. Additionally, we provide legislative and executive leadership, which includes support for the city council, the city recorder, and the city archives, and legal services are also budgeted in this department. Accomplishments for this current year include receiving the Government of Chief Financial Officers Association Distinguished Budget Award for the 6th consecutive years. And I hope we do it again. Executed the agreement with the City of Independence for IT support services and continued to host the Polk County Family and Community Outreach staff for disconnect days and providing customers experiencing and helping customers experiencing financial hardship. The department has prioritized for the next fiscal year to improve community awareness and operation efficiencies. This will include process improvements, review of level of service agreements, and evaluate long-term financial sustainability and health of the organization. You will see coming this next fiscal year or in fiscal year 27 budget that the communications has been pulled out of the management and finance department to its own department. And it is called City Communications. This will allow better management of funds, activities, and provide an additional layer of transparency as to all the great work that our city communications person performs. Sabra will be presenting on the communications department later, probably next meeting. But with that, I do want to turn it over real quick to Jason, our IT person. So,
Hey everybody, Jason Kistler, IT Director for the City of Independence and also a resident of Monmouth. I think I know most of you, but to the new folks, hello.
You know this guy?
Do you know that guy? Yeah.
Yeah, I do know that guy. Come with me, quite a while ago, let's see, that would have been probably around December of last year. Rochelle actually approached us, wondering if we could help out with IT. Originally, the city of Monmouth was in pretty dire straits with IT. Staff was very unhappy with the service levels they were getting. There's very little plan for how to move technology forward. You know, there's no standardized replacement of equipment. There was a lot of surprise gotchas. So we've really tried to focus on turning the IT department into something that's more customer service oriented. You know, turning away from an IT department that's basically the department of no to the department of yes. There have been a few examples that we can think of just off the top of my head. For instance, the police department, they did not have control over the own locks to their building. They had to go through IT to determine whether they added a new person or locked somebody out. So I don't want to be involved in the police department's locks. Let's empower them to do it themselves, you know, so we start getting more efficiencies that way. Another example was communications. They needed a new font file for graphics that they were doing. They were told, no, they can't have the new font because it was a security risk. So let's
Seriously.
look at this and figure out a way
That's just.
that we can get to yes, even if there are security risks. How can we make it happen? How can we serve our customer, which is the staff? A few other off the walls. There was one at the let's see, it was a senior center. They were not allowed to move a copier. We blessed it and said they can move their copier. There's some other things that we try to do as far as increasing staff efficiencies. For instance, John Steed doing HR, he kind of got thrown into the loop of taking care of the phone system. That's something he doesn't need to be doing. Yeah, we can handle that. Other than that, we want to establish service level agreements, a commitment that we make to our customers. So we use the help desk ticketing system. One of the big complaints is it would take forever to someone get back to you. So we set certain standards in place. If you submit a ticket, you will hear back from us at the maximum of 1 day. In addition to that, we have different levels. Obviously, if it's an emergency, now we're talking, you're going to hear from us in 4 hours. If it's critical, we're dropping what we're doing and we're coming to help. And that also includes 24/7 coverage. So we are on call at night if something big blows up. We expect a member of the police department to come bang on our doors and wake us up if we don't answer the phone. Other than that, we're also trying to really look at ways that we can standardize how Monmouth works. We found that a lot of the different departments were very siloed in their operations when it came to technology. So you may have the same workflow that you want to do at Public Works that you do at Monmouth Power and Light, but they are set up completely differently and work completely differently. So if we need to come in and troubleshoot something, well, we got to remember, are we in Public Works or Power and Light? Because it's completely different. So really trying to standardize things. We're trying to nail down replacement cycles. So we're not surprised, like all of a sudden we have to replace every single computer because of Windows 11. No, we'll have them on a 5-year cycle. So it'll be little bits that we can count on every single year. In addition to that, it's also really helping out both cities. What we're able to do now is obviously increase our purchasing power when I negotiate with vendors. Instead of buying, 100 licenses, now I can buy 200. And that gets us more discounts for both cities. The other part of that was also making sure that Monmouth had complete control over the systems that they owned and purchased. That was a really big roadblock that we ran into, is that if all of a sudden the previous IT provider went away, we had no way into their systems, whether it was us or anybody else. So we've managed to track down all those systems, redo contacts, set up administrative accounts. We're not going to keep these secret. This is something that Monmouth owns. So if it doesn't work out with us, they should be able to walk away and still have a good experience. So I think that about covers it. I know we're trying to get out of here quick, but I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions about IT or management finance?
Couple of questions. First is, last year there was a reorganization of the FTE for this department It's kind of spread out among the other departments. And that was explained, it makes sense now, I like it. A little bit funky at first, but.
It's hard to change, yeah.
And then this year, there's another reorganization, creation of a new department, I forget what it was called. When I get new sets of eyes and different ways of seeing things and organizing, do you foresee any other changes that are significant? It's just harder to track if I'm a layperson looking at the numbers and monies being moved or allocated in different departments. It's hard to keep track. We see things pretty much stabilizing from year into the next year.
Yeah, I think things will stabilize moving forward. I don't see any big reorganizations or anything.
Oh, that's helpful. I'm not used to looking at these, so it gives me a little bit more ease if I know that it's going to be consistent from year to year. Then the second question, same as I asked the chief, just regarding these dues and membership costs. Some significant numbers in finance and one department. Can you see any of those that are not essential from year to year, anything that we are able to still function and or we get a return on those investments? Some of them are smaller, some of them are quite large, but I'm not familiar with all of the publications and organizations.
Yeah, so I'm gonna start sort of the top. But we also gave you the allocation so that you could see certain of these do get allocated across the funds, and so only the general fund portion is in that first column. So just so everybody's aware of that. So we do have the Statesman. I believe that is our subscription to the Statesman. So that's important for us to have access to the newspaper articles for state information, for local information. So that's what that is. The Lane County Council of Governments. The city joins the Lane Council of Governments, and we have used in the past it's Robert
Used to be called Local Government Personnel Institute. It's called something else now.
Yeah, and so they would also help us negotiate contracts, and there's other services that they can provide. They can also do employment. You can go through them for that, but that's what that is. League of Oregon Cities, obviously that's a substantial one. That is based on our population, and so that is how they charge across the state. The League of Oregon Cities offers several services. They do the training that I believe you attended in Salem. They also help us with legislation, as you've seen from the prioritization that the council does and what they want the LOC to work on to help with, and they're working on revenue reform right now, hopefully with the property tax system. They also provide legal support, and they provide it to the staff as well as the council. And so that's always good guidance that they provide. So I mean, I'm on the League of Oregon Cities Board of Directors, so I might be a little biased into it, but they do provide a lot of services for the city, and it's critical. And it's also information. As you know, laws change daily that can impact what we do, and they make sure to get us that information and get us training on it or information so that we can do our daily job. So it is important to the operations. The Mid-Willamette Valley Homeless Alliance, Committee Member Lopez spoke about that, and he explained what that is and what we do with that. SEDCOR is an economic development organization that we are a part of, and so they help provide information on economic development. They do roundtables, they do highlight, they do all those things. So Suzanne and I attend that as well as the mayor. Let's see, Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments, so that's the COG. The COG is another group that provides services to cities, and our rate is based on our population. They provide, and Committee Member Belts could talk about that as well. She was the president of the board, but they provide planning services. They provide, they do a local monthly breakfast that we all go to so that we can work together and find out what's going on across our county, as well as all three counties. They actually do Marion, Polk, and Hill County. They also can provide legal They do legal,
GIS planning.
GIS planning as well.
The planning for you. I'm sorry,
Oh.
so the recruitment planning, GIS planning,
Yeah.
they have grants, they do small business loans, they do, they'll provide pretty much any support. They will fill in if you have staff that are out, they'll fill in staff, so it's pretty, I mean, I'm biased there, but yeah, they provide a plethora of services, and again, that cost is based on population.
The next one is the Polk County Itemizer. So again, that's a subscription to that newspaper. And then we have the Monmouth Independence Rotary. So that I believe that pays for membership of our staff to be in the Rotary. And that is our communications director. You know, do I need to explain the Rotary? I mean, yeah. No, I'm sorry. Okay, so it's just basically membership in the Rotary. And then OAMR is the Oregon Association of Municipal Recorders. And so that is for our city recorder. That is an important association to be in, especially for a brand new city recorder. It provides her access to the city recorders throughout the state, and they actually have a listserv. So when there's questions that come up and how do you handle public comment in a such and so meeting, and we don't know the answer, she can put that out and she can find out what other cities have done. It also helps with research. A lot of times when we're looking at what we're going to bring to council and it's what do other cities our size do in the situation, then she can go out on the listserv and pose that question and get that information. But it's more about her being able to be the training that's involved and the ability to contact other city recorders and to work with them and understand her role and the rules of the state.
Are those annual training? Sorry. Are those trainings that are required annually, or is it or specifically designed for newer recorders or other positions, not just recorders, but some trainings that are provided? Are these things that have to be maintained every single year, or can be lapsed year and still be able to re-enter?
The trainings aren't like an annual thing where you have to go every year. I mean, but it's with all the changes that occur, then typically you want to have that training every year. The $250, is it $200? The $250 dues is just to be in the organization. Then they have an annual conference where they can go and get more training and those types of things. So this just covers her ability to be in the OAMR. Then we have the Oregon Ethics Commission. So obviously we have to pay for that, and OCCMA, and this is for the OLGG. So this is through the OCCMA and LOC, actually, they have a Latino group that meets, which is the OLGG. And so this allows employees of who are Hispanic to be in a group and to work on career promotion and job enrichment and those types of things. And so that's what that $175 is for staff to attend or be involved in that. And they do trainings. They have meetings quarterly, I think, and they'll do trainings that they just go attend. There's no additional cost. And then the Oregon Government Finance Office. So that's part of the, you want to talk to that one?
Yeah, so as a finance director, it's really critical to be a part of that organization because they provide training and updates on what's required under GAAP and GASB to make sure that we're in compliance with how we manage our financials and the reporting for our audit. If we had to, so in order to get that training and education, another option would be to work with our auditor, and they would charge us much more than $500 a year for that. So, and they give us an award if we do well in our budget.
Just one other just clarification, the numbers for total for F&M is $31,860.29 on that, and then on the page 32 dues and publications it was $36,000. Is there something I'm missing?
Yeah, so there's some printing, miscellaneous printing and stuff like that hits that line item that wasn't necessarily dues and memberships. It was literally for printing documents and stuff like that. So not sure that was probably the right line item for those to hit.
Okay. I have a question. Yeah, I know it's late and everyone wants to go home, but I noticed that on here, in years past, last year when we were doing this, that we had a line item for the Monmouth and Independence Chamber of Commerce. Is there a reason the city opted to not participate in that program?
So, and I'll just clarify, these are expenditures that have happened this current fiscal year. So if we haven't made the payment, it's not on here. It doesn't mean we're not a member anymore. So I don't know what the timing is for that. It might be a timing issue. Never mind. I redact all of that.
There was a change in the leadership at the chamber. And when that occurred, so let's go back a little bit. When I first came on board, there was some concern about the financial responsibility and how that was being done at the chamber. And there were some current concerns that, especially since we use tax dollars and grant funds, and we have to make sure that when we donate, when we give that money to another business, we need to make sure that they're following the right procedures and all of that. And so I became a part of the board, and I became part of the Friends of the Board. And so they started doing financials, they got an accountant, they were working through all that stuff. We were looking at that and seeing that. And they confirmed during that time that the prior director had made some interesting decisions with the finances and that were not appropriate. And I don't know how to say this.
Go ahead.
Is that okay? You get it?
Yeah, go straight with it.
Yeah. And so there was some concern about that. And especially now, since there was concern with the prior director, and then now we're going to bring in a new director, and then there were some concerns with that director. And then they brought in a new interim director who had no financial background, had no budgeting background. And so I issued concern with the director at the time and the board, the chair of the board, in regards to that, and concern about the funds that we're giving you and how they're being used, and are they being tracked properly, and are they being used properly? And so that's the concern that we had at the time. And that's at the time when we decided to back up and wait to see what they did and who they brought in and how that was going to work, so that we could make sure that the funds that we were giving them were being handled responsibly. They chose to take that interim who had no background and no budgeting experience, and they made them the director. And because of that, very concerned about who to spend the funds and very concerned about that situation. And so we have decided to stay back and wait until future time when we see how those things are going and if the funds are being handled properly and that type of thing.
Hopefully this will be the last question. On page 36, the right one. You have a total budget of 65,000. Are there any schedules back here that show the entire budget?
We haven't been presented on city communications yet. We haven't gone this far yet.
Different department. We're not there.
We haven't got to city communications yet. But
We stopped at 32.
Yeah.
That same chapter doesn't have to have all of them.
Finance and management.
Just a second,
Yeah.
look,
Yeah.
the same issues, page 32. Is there a schedule back here that shows the budget for finance and management, and then how it's distributed out to departments, how that works?
I
couldn't find
The
it.
allocation.
Yeah, there's the allocation that's in the appendix, but I can provide that again at our next meeting.
I look.
Or you can go over it.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to see that.
And I could go over it at the next meeting as well.
Okay, that's all quick for that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, staff, for meetings. I will recess budget committee to May 7, 2026. 6:30.
Appendix 3 and appendix 4 has all.